time that we are live today, but we have a U.S. Open champion, and it is JJ Spaun, who put together a phenomenal back nine and hit some incredibly clutch shots when he needed it at its most. And he has won the 125th U.S. Open. This is our recap show of the U.S. Open. What a week that it was. Just another fantastic week of golf, and boy, there's a lot to recap here, a lot to go over. So let me just get this thing out to the social media, and we will be on our way to recap the 125th U.S. Open from Oakmont. Once again, it delivers. It had a little bit of everything. Weather delay. We weren't sure if we were going to get the championship in today, but here we are, and there is a winner. JJ Spaun, first-time major champion, second time just playing in the U.S. Open. And we talked about it this week and early on when he was leading after the first round, just the fact that, this is a guy that hasn't been in this position a whole lot, but this year he has been really good. And he's been one of those guys that it isn't surprising that he's a major champion. However, you have to go out there and win it when you have these chances. And you never know how many chances JJ Spaun will get at a major championship. I mean, he's a little bit of an older first-time winner, 34 years old. He'll be 35 in a couple of months. He's only won on the PGA Tour once. And this is a guy that's really had to grind his way up to the rankings, playing college golf and playing a couple of mini tours and the Korn Ferry Tour, and eventually making his way up to the PGA Tour. And even on the PGA Tour, he wasn't entirely safe until last summer when he really turned it on. I mean, you go back to when right around this time, miscut at the Zurich, miscut at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, T26 at the Myrtle Beach Classic, an opposite field event, miscut at the Charles Schwab, miscut at the Canadian Open. And at that point, he's in danger of losing his PGA Tour card, goes T10 at the Rocket Mortgage, T23 at the John Deere, T9 at the 3M Open, T3 at the Wyndham, had skipped over a couple of T29, T45 performances, but he did enough, and he played in the FedEx Fall, and here he is as a major champion. And it just goes to show you never know when you can get on these runs, and you have to take advantage of them. It's like Jeff Ogilvy in 2006. Angel Cabrera put himself in a couple of spots, famously at Oakmont as well. But JJ Spaun coming out with the victory in remarkable fashion. And we talked about this at kind of our halftime, if you will. I said he was probably the biggest benefiter of the weather delay. And I completely forgot about the Players' Championship where they had that 4-hour weather delay, but JJ talked about that multiple times with Mike Tirico and in his post-round press conference, talking about the fact that it was so beneficial learning from the Players' Championship, even though he lost that. And I was thinking he just using the experience he had performing under pressure, performing up against Rory McIlroy in a playoff, and down the stretch, how Spaun hung in there. And ironically, 17 is where things went haywire in the Players for JJ Spaun. And 17 here at the U.S. Open is where he hit the shot of his life. I mean, it was almost eerily similar to when Corey Pavin in 95 hit his, 5 wood from the fairway at Shinnecock. And it was very similar in that sense. And when he needed it at his most, he dug down deep and got it. And he came out with 5 straight pars, birdies 14, bogeys 15, and then birdie on 17, birdie on 18, while everyone else around him was completely collapsing to get to 1 under par. Robert McIntyre put together a great round, and we were talking about it at the halfway mark as well during the weather delay that Robert McIntyre is right in this thing. He figured he was probably the last guy with a realistic chance other than Scotty Scheffler. And we'll talk a little bit more about Scheffler later on here in the show. But incredible job from Robert McIntyre to get himself in there, had a nice birdie on 17, good par on 18, and just set the pace and just said, hey, let's see what happens. And nearly came away with the victory. Running down the leaderboard, 2 over par, Viktor Hovland. He finishes in solo 3rd. This one's probably going to feel a lot like the PGA Championship, where it might feel like he let this one slide. Another chance for Hovland. He's getting himself more and more in the mix. And, regardless of what he says, whether he's saying he's having a bad stretch or he only has some of his game, not his A game, maybe his C game, he's getting enough experience and putting himself in enough of these to where he's starting to turn into one of these guys where, well, if he just keeps getting into, top 5, top 10, he might luck into one of these majors, accidentally walk into one, similar to what JJ Spaun did. But great job from Viktor Hovland this week to battle and keep fighting. Again, the driver let him down. Which you could say that about JJ Spaun, only hitting 7 of 14 fairways. However, he hit 4 of 7 on the back nine to JJ Spaun and 8 of 9 greens. And from 7 on, final 12 holes, JJ Spaun hit 11 of 12 greens. And the only green that he missed was 15, where he bogeyed. After hitting 1 of 6 greens to begin, and the 1 green that he hit was the only par that he had. So, and I said at the halfway mark, it's going to come down to precision. Who hits the most greens, who hits the most fairways, and who can just kind of ride this thing out, because there might be some calamity down the stretch. And boy, was there was definitely some calamity here. Let me just turn on my fan for my laptop. But Viktor Hovland came close once again. The bogey on 15 really felt like that kind of took him out of it, but it just didn't feel like Viktor Hovland's day. It just kind of felt like for Hovland, it didn't mesh well. Like, you could almost feel like for JJ Spaun, when it came back and he puts one right down the middle on 9 and he's hanging around, you're like, oh, maybe this could end up being like his day. It just didn't feel like Viktor Hovland was going to win it. It just, you never got that feeling, or at least I never got that sensation when watching the championship. Okay, moving down the leaderboard. Cameron Young, 3 over. Tyrrell Hatton, that 3 over does not do justice as to how well he played, but he missed some chances. 17 is going to be the one that he's going to be real. There's a couple of guys that are going to be kicking themselves over this week. Tyrrell Hatton's going to be kicking himself over the 17th. Carlos Ortiz, thanks for coming out. We're kind of surprised that he hung around in the top 5, but here he is with the T4 +3. So a good week for Ortiz. Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, all at 4 over. Kind of surprising to see Sam Burns drop down, shot 78, just an atrocious back 9, especially after the restart. And that was the thing that I also said at the break. I said, you're going to see 2 things. Well, a couple of things take place, but one of them was going to be someone's going to benefit from the break, and someone is going to wish this break never happened. And Sam Burns is probably the epitome of, I wish this break didn't happen. He was kind of cruising along, got a terrible break on 9, good birdie on 10, and then the double on 11, the bogey on 12, and then he gets to 15, and there's going to be a lot of talk about whether he should have gotten the drop or not. You still got to hit the shot. And he let that completely spiral his back 9. He's still in it. He was still in control of the tournament. It was his championship to lose. And he just decided that he was going to let that get to him too much. And ultimately he ends up falling short. And it's not just that. I mean, you make 2 doubles on the back 9 of the US Open, you're probably not going to win. You make 2 doubles on the same 9, it doesn't matter if it's in the final round or not. You're probably not going to win, but still a successful week for Sam Burns. He'll probably take a lot from this one. T10, we've got a group of Ben Griffin and Russ Henley. They were each at 5 over, and then down at 6 over, Xander Schauffele, Brooks Koepka, Chris Kirk, Christian Bezuidenhout, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, who I don't think they showed a single shot of today on the broadcast, which I keep saying I need to talk about the broadcast. I'm going to talk about the broadcast at some point because, man, it was atrocious this week. Tristan Lawrence also at 6 over, and Adam Scott 6 over, shooting 79. Yeah, it just didn't feel like it was his day either. Kind of like Victor Hovland. It never felt like it was in the cards for Adam Scott today, which is a shame. And he played a lot better than 6 over and T12. Hopefully history remembers that he was in the mix. He was a legitimate threat. I mean, he was going to be the story had he won. It would have been the best story. But unfortunately for Adam Scott, he falls a little bit short. And then let's just round out the top 20. How about Rory McIlroy? T19. The backdoor again for Rory McIlroy after shooting 67, which I believe is the round of the day along with Jon Rahm. I don't think anyone shot better than 67. Yes, that is the case. So he had the round of the day, him and Jon Rahm. So that gets Rory up to +7 at T19, along with Ryan Fox, Victor Perez, and Emiliano Grillo. Some other notable names going down the list below T20. You've got Colin Morikawa at T23, along with Patrick Reed and Jordan Spieth. They were all at 8 over par. Let's see. Tom Kim at 9 over. Keegan Bradley also at 9 over. Matt Fitzpatrick at 11 over. Hideki Matsuyama at 12 over. And any other names? That's really about it. Sung J M, who was in contention earlier in the week, he finishes at 16 over T57. Yeah, that does it for the leaderboard. So where does JJ Spaun go from here? That's going to be the big question as to, he'll in all likelihood is going to be on the Ryder Cup team. Going to pull up the Ryder Cup rankings. And I don't believe this is updated quite yet, but JJ Spaun coming into the week was at 13. And he was one of the guys that I was thinking maybe could just be a captain's pick the way he's been playing. Now, certainly he's all but a guarantee to make the team in one way or another, barring he gets hurt or goes on a horrible stretch of golf, but you don't really sense that coming from JJ. So it looks like he'll be in the Ryder Cup. Who knows how Portrush will treat him? He has yet to play in an Open Championship, so this will be his first Open Championship next month that he'll be participating in. Kind of had an Open Championship breakout on the back 9, so who knows? Maybe he is built for that kind of those kinds of conditions. But Spaun, and I don't know if this is the right comparison, but he kind of feels like one of those like Angel Cabrera or Retief Goosen type players where it seems like he might be able to pick off a couple of these majors. You know, Angel Cabrera just pulled up. He only won once on the PGA Tour, 3 times on the DP World Tour, and has 2 majors. Played in 4 different President's Cups. I mean, and was kind of known for being he was really good at the majors. That's, you know, kind of like a Brooks Koepka, where he just geared up for the majors and could not have cared any less about the PGA Tour or Euro Tour or any of that stuff. And that maybe that's, I don't know if that's the comparison. Retief Goosen was a little more accomplished, winning 2 U.S. Opens. He won 5 times on the PGA Tour, 12 times on the Euro Tour, 2-time Race to Dubai winner, and also 6 times on the President's Cup. But also really, really rock solid in the majors. So perhaps JJ Spaun, this can kind of bring some life into a career that otherwise could just end up being like a one-hit wonder. You know, I don't want to throw him into like the Todd Hamilton or Sean McKeel or some of those goofball PGA Championship winners from the early 2000s, or you know, like a Ben Curtis, like guys who came out of nowhere and then we never heard from them again. I think JJ Spaun has a little more staying power than those guys, but I mean, who knows? Certainly this is going to be a life-changing year for JJ Spaun. He's now gonna, I mean, he's almost certain to make his way into the FedEx Cup Tour Championship. You would think he would make it down to Atlanta. He'll be in a really nice spot after this one. Let's see. I don't know if they will have, they should have the updated FedEx Cup standings. But like, there's so many things that's going to be a ricochet effect for him. And now he's on the map. He's not just one of these guys that is hanging around and just rumbling around the PGA Tour. He's now up to 6th in the FedEx Cup standings. So that's where JJ Spaun lies right now. He'd have to really try to play his way out of Atlanta for the Tour Championship. But if he, I mean, who knows? Maybe he wins again. He could very much be contending for the Tour Championship in Atlanta. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. And that's the tough part when you're trying to handicap these guys, is where do they go? Like a guy like JJ Spaun, you don't know where, like, what's next, what's around the corner. We've had a lot of heavy hitters win majors lately, and maybe Brian Harman is the last guy that you go back to with the 2023 Open that wasn't, like, I guess, one of the guys or one of the main guys that you would expect to win a major. And I mean, Brian Harman hasn't really done a whole lot since he won the Open. It seems like JJ Spaun has a little bit more of a stoic presence to him. And I mean, hitting those shots under pressure like he did, I don't know. I don't see him just being a 1-week guy and then we don't hear from him again. It's possible that we don't, but it's also, I think it's more likely that he wins another major than he falls off the face of the earth. He's got that. He's got that kind of capability where he went toe to toe with Rory, and yeah, he fell a little bit short, but I think he really turned some heads and gained a lot of respect from his peers that week. And this week, obviously, he's going to gain a hell of a lot of respect, especially after all the bad breaks he had in the front 9. And he talked about how much having that reset was a big deal, getting the break and having that opportunity to just restart all over as if he was playing a new round. So JJ Spaun, a little bit out of left field, but again, we've run down his resume a couple of times this week. It's also not surprising, given the way how he's been playing, that he's contending. It is surprising that he wins, but here he is now with an opportunity to maybe hang around, get that Ryder Cup experience, probably President's Cup experience as well next year. Certainly, if he wins again between now and the President's Cup, he should be all but on the team. This could put him into that next level of player, or he could truly end up being that one-hit wonder that flames out in a couple of years because he, it's different. Being a major champion, there's so much extra weight that's on your shoulders as a major champion. And I mean, we saw it with even some of the greats that, like think back to a David Duval when he just was blitzing the field for that stretch in the late 90s, early 2000s. You couldn't think of him only ending up with one major, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And there are other examples of other guys where they reach top 10, top 5, top 3 status, maybe win a major or two, and then you just never see or hear from them again. Jim Furyk, another guy who hung around the official world golf ranking. He was top 5, top 10. I mean, he was top 3 for a while in his career, only ends up with one. These majors are really hard to win. And so it's like I said, when you have those opportunities, you have to come through. And JJ Spaun did that putt on 18. The drive on 17 is probably, I think that's going to get lost on history, unfortunately, because I mean, it was really up in the air. Even though, let's take a look at how 17 played. Of course, it's the easiest hole of the day, right? It was the easiest hole all week long. It was the only hole that played under par all week. And today it played at 0.32 under. So you're thinking like, yeah, it's probably a birdie hole. But look at what Tyrrell Hatton did. Drove it into a miserable spot and makes bogey, and he took himself out of the championship. And I said it in our preview show. There's going to be someone on 17 that wins the championship because of 17, and someone is going to lose the championship because of 17. And Tyrrell Hatton lost it because of 17, and JJ Spaun won it because of 17. And JJ Spaun comes out there, and it's why I said if I were at Oakmont, I would set up shop at 17 and just watch that hole all day long because it's such an interesting hole. There's so many ways to play it. And we saw so many different ways to birdie it, right? Victor Hovland yesterday going miles right and having that incredible up and down. Guys in the bunker making up and down, driving the green. I mean, Spaun nearly hit the flagstick with his drive. And then guys like Tyrrell Hatton, where they end up hitting. I mean, it's not like Hatton hit like a bad drive. It's just he missed it in the worst spot. This is the worst spot that he could hit it. If that thing is 10 yards left, he's fine, and he probably gets up and down. Who knows? Maybe holes out for eagle, but he probably gets up and down for birdie, or at the very least, he has par. And then that changes the way how he plays 18. But he just barely missed in the wrong spot, and that's where that precision I was talking about earlier today comes into play. And credit to JJ Spaun for hitting that drive. That was a cool shot that he hit, but the putt's going to be the one that everyone remembers, because to walk it off like that, his 2 longest putts made this season happened in the back 9. On 12, he hit that 40-footer that he drained, and that is when JJ Spaun, I think, announced like, okay, I'm back. I'm in this thing. I'm ready to go. I've completely flushed away. He said that the 9th hole is when he hit his drive on 9. He said in his post-round press conference that's when he was like, he really felt the effects of being completely reset. But I think 12 is really when he stamped his presence and said, I'm back in this thing. That putt, and then, of course, the putt on 18, those putts alone are the 2 longest putts he's made all season on the PGA Tour. incredible stuff. He gained over a stroke on both of those putts. On 12, he gained 1.02 strokes with that putt alone. And then on 18, he gained a stroke and a half on the hole and 1.29 strokes putting. Gained 3 strokes on the back nine with the putter. That's championship golf. That's golf of a champion. I mean, it is unbelievable that he gained 3 strokes on the back nine, just the putter. He gained 4.11 strokes on the back nine with his 32. I mean, even a guy like Robert McIntyre, same thing. He putted extremely well on the back nine, but he only gained a stroke and a half on the back. Cam Young putted well, stroke and a half on the back nine. Victor Hovland, the putter kind of let him down. Let's see. Ben Griffin, also a stroke and a half. I mean, it is just incredible. John Rahm, he went birdie to finish, also shooting 32 on the back nine, only gained a stroke. So the putting performance that Spaun had, I think, is going to be, it's certainly worth remembering. That putt on 17 to make birdie was a nervy one, but he calmly rolled it in. And then, of course, everyone's going to remember the 18th. One of the cooler putts, and it's almost like a weird instance that NBC showed 2008 Torrey Pines, and all of those clutch putts Tiger made. 13 on Saturday, 18 on Saturday, 18 on Sunday. And it comes down to another clutch putt on 18 on Sunday for JJ Spaun to win it. And it's one of the more epic putts in US Open history and major championship history. But that drive on 17, I hope that doesn't get lost on history, because if he doesn't step up and sacks up and hits that shot almost at the flagstick, I mean, he almost, if he would have drained it, I mean, that would have been, I don't know what would have happened then, but he came so close to hitting the flagstick, and it probably stops it, if anything. He very easily could have made eagle, but and how funny would that have been if he hits another flagstick? Gets the horrible break on 2. That would just be, that would be amazing if he would have hit the flagstick and it ended up going his way on 17. But he ends up winning by 2 shots. Okay. Let's see. Where do we want to go next? Robert McIntyre. I want to talk a little bit about him. So Robert McIntyre is a guy that I think he's starting to find himself into the conversation of a legitimate player. Rough go at the majors this year. T47 at the PGA, miscut at the Masters. Go back to last year, even miscut at the US Open. T50 at the Open. Did have a T8 at the PGA Championship. Recently, his form hasn't been all that good. T36 at the RBC Canadian Open. T20 at the Memorial. Again, that's a shrunk field, so that doesn't equate to true T20. T6 at the Charles Schwab Challenge, which is good. But then go back to that month. Let's start with the Masters, where he missed the cut. T66 at the RBC Heritage, no cut field. T32 at the Zurich, that's the team competition. T34 at the Truist, another no cut field. T47 at the PGA Championship. So this is a guy that I think he was really trying to find something. Had his form earlier in the year, and also on the DP World Tour last fall and into the winter, was playing some good golf on the Euro Tour. Had just a bizarre stretch of golf where he went from playing in the Players Championship 1 week, finished solo 9th. Then the next week, play at the Porsche Singapore Classic, finished T9 there. Went from Sawgrass, which is in just outside of Jacksonville, to Singapore in the same week. Then turns around and 2 weeks later, he's playing at the Masters. I have no idea how that schedule got put together, but I mean, he also went from Hawaii to the Hero Dubai Desert Classic. So, I mean, and then 2 weeks later played in the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So hopefully Robert McIntyre has a little bit different scheduling for next year. But he's another guy that we should be seeing at the Ryder Cup this year. Let's take a look at Team Europe standings. They're not going to have it updated all the way. But right now he sits 11th and probably will end up being a captain's pick unless he wins the Open Championship. That would pretty much guarantee him a spot there. But last year he won the Scottish Open, won the Canadian Open as well. And those were some really, really big championships. Won the Canadian Open with his dad on the bag, and then he's from Scotland, so winning his home Open was a really big deal and a really cool moment last year. But yeah, I mean, it seems like he's turning into a proper player. And again, really great back nine, shooting 33, bogey free after the 6th hole, birdieing 9, which, I mean, we saw 9 was eating guys' lunch, especially coming down the stretch. 9 is the second hardest hole of the day. 15 was the hardest hole. He made one of 4 birdies today. Did McIntyre. More players bogeyed or double bogeyed the hole than made par. And I mean, he gained a shot and a half on the field with that birdie. So he also eagled 4. I mean, so I think we need to start. I think Robert McIntyre probably deserves a little more respect and should probably be in consideration a little bit more for one of the better players on the PGA Tour, despite the fact that he's had a little bit, we went over, a little bit of an up and down year, but played in the Ryder Cup in 2023, has that experience, only 28 years old, has a lot of golf ahead of him. And, just look at who won. JJ Spaun, 6 years older than Robert McIntyre. So the future still is bright for Bobby Mack. Viktor Hovland, talked about this quite a bit this week. I don't want to keep rehashing the same point over and over, but he'll be a major champion at some point. Just another disappointing finish, shooting 3 over. The putter was just brutal, and the driver, he only hit 50% of the fairways. However, he split it up even 3 and 4. Did hit a lot of greens, especially on the back 9 where he went 8 of 9. But like I said, the putter ended up failing him down the stretch. But he's gonna win multiple majors. I'd be shocked if he's only a 1 major guy. Seems like he has 2 or 3 waiting in the wings, and he keeps putting himself in these spots. He'll accidentally win one. Who knows? He might end up winning a couple more just doing that. Cameron Young, thought he might be a guy that goes out there, especially early, made a couple of birdies, but really quiet second 9, made just the 1 birdie coming in at 17, but solid week from Cameron Young, who you're expecting to maybe be on the Ryder Cup team. Certainly with the guy who we just talked about, Viktor Hovland, I think he'll probably be a captain's pick. But Cameron Young's one of these guys that we might see in New York. Who knows? I think he's going to have to play his way to a captain's pick. But a good week for Young. And then Tyrrell Hatton, right in the mix. He hit some awesome shots today. I mean, the shot he hit on 4, the second shot was incredible. Hit a great shot on 16. Just a couple of putts down the stretch that he needed. And then, of course, the drive on 17. Like I said, it wasn't necessarily a bad drive. It's just where he hit it, it was a bad miss. Cannot leave it short right. It would have been better if he got in the bunker. If it weren't as wet, it probably does roll into the bunker, but it ends up falling short. He's got to win a major one day. Like, it just seems like you know, golf, you don't get anything because you deserve it. You go out there because you earn it. You get everything in golf you have to earn. You don't get it because you deserve it. Like Adam Scott deserves more than one major. Justin Rose deserves more than one major. You know, they're all these other guys. They probably deserve a lot more than what they've got. Like Jim Furyk, another guy that I was just talking about earlier. Tyrrell Hatton probably deserves to be a major champion one day, but he needs to go out there and get it. And it's good to see Tyrrell Hatton get back into form. He was playing like a top 10 player in the world as of late, and then went through a little bit of a rough stretch. You know, on Live has not had a good season this year. Had a T5 at Mexico City, but other than that, has not really been all that impressive. Had a couple of wins in the fall into the winter time on the Euro Tour. But let's see what his Open resume is. He did play in the 2019 Open Championship, finished T6, and that was at Royal Portrush. Granted, he did finish 10 shots back of Shane Lowry, but I mean, he still hung in there, had a pretty decent week. So, and he's played the Opens fairly well. Certainly not a player that, he's a player that I would expect to give it a run. He would be a guy that I'll have to take into consideration when we get to that time and have to see how his form is. But this week, I think, could jumpstart something for Tyrrell Hatton. But it just seems like he's a really, really good player. And I love the quotes that he has about how he's always this, this wild nut on the golf course, and everyone else gets to live like Tyrrell Hatton for a week, especially at a place like Oakmont. And I think that also bodes well at an Open Championship. Guys get put in a blender when they get to the Open, especially these American players that don't really understand what it's like to play Open Championship golf. Now, I'm listening to the book that Steve Williams and Evan Priest co-wrote, Together We Roared. And in the book, Tiger in PGA Tour tournaments would be hitting certain shots in preparation for the Open. Like in competition, not just in practice. And that's what separates, obviously it separates Tiger from pretty much every other golfer that's ever played. But you have to be able to be that creative to hit those shots. And a lot of these American golfers, they just aren't creative enough. They just kind of get by with this bomb and gouge mentality. And that's why you have a guy like JJ Spaun, especially being as precise as he was. I mean, no offense to Sam Burns, but that's why he didn't win this week. Just wasn't creative, wasn't patient enough. And I'll give him a pass because he hasn't been in this position a whole lot, but that's why. You have to be patient. You have to be level-headed. You can't be worrying about if you're getting a free drop or not. You just have to hit the shot that's right in front of you. It's already hard enough to win a major championship. And if you're worrying about whether there's a little bit of standing water, I mean, I get it. It's not fun to play out of standing water, but when the weather's bad out here in the Northwest, like I enjoy playing golf in the rain. It's a true test of if you a good golfer or not. Anybody can play good golf when the weather is perfect and the conditions are pristine and the greens are rolling true and the grass is perfectly manicured. But how can you play on a day like today at Oakmont? Can you battle the weather? Can you battle the unique circumstances of having to take a break during the middle of the round? Can you battle handling bad breaks? And JJ Spaun showed that, and Sam Burns didn't. It seemed like Sam Burns was trying to make excuses for everything, while JJ Spaun said, "Yeah, okay, bad break. Oh well. Let me just reset during this weather delay, and I'm going to go out and win me a major championship." So, that's the difference right there. You could see it right out in front of you. The difference between a major champion and someone who just was looking for all the excuses and someone who just isn't mentally strong enough to be a major champion. And they talked about it on the broadcast about having the 15th club being attitude. And, that's one thing they did get right this week on the broadcast is, yes, the attitude mattered down the stretch for JJ Spaun. And I think Tyrrell Hatton is the only guy that might get away with that attitude because he almost feeds off of it. But that's the difference right there. And JJ Spaun conquering it. Scotty Scheffler, I think, is going to be really, really hurting him. He's going to be hurting after this one. I think this one, it should sting for a while for Scotty. Lost 0.65 strokes putting. I honestly can't believe he only lost that much. It felt like he lost it felt like he lost about 2 or 3 strokes, maybe mentally. Awful 3-putt on 11, which, he had that little putt for par. And now, it's one thing to go back, but there were opportunities throughout the day where Scotty Scheffler could have made birdie. And it was a long shot. I get it. But it was there. It was there for him to potentially give it a go. But the birdie on 11 really seemed to, again, it just wasn't in the cards. And sometimes fate and destiny has a hand in these. Today almost kind of felt like the 99 US Open. If you go back and rewatch that, Payne Stewart gets some breaks. And US Opens, I feel like, maybe not more than any, but there is a theme in US Opens, and it's not every year. And it's not even every other year, but it's fairly routine throughout history where you go back and you go, wow, these guys got some incredible breaks and they end up winning the championship. Scotty just didn't get those breaks. For a while, it didn't seem like JJ Spaun was going to get those breaks. Tyrrell Hatton didn't get that big break that he needed down the stretch, although he tried to fight it all the way through. He hit some incredible shots. Every once in a while, there's a guy that just ends up getting those breaks, but Scotty Scheffler didn't have those breaks. He tried and tried, but when you're trying to fight against fate and destiny, it's that's a hard fight to go up against. But still, another top 10 for Scheffler in a major, and it seems like it's a matter of time before he wins a U.S. Open. It seems like the next couple of courses really set up well for him, and I think he'll get there. I think he'll get there one day. I think Jon Rahm will. He seems like he'll win at least another couple of majors as well. I think he could win the next one at Portrush, which would then put him one major away from the career Grand Slam. So, and same thing for Scotty Scheffler, both in the same boat. They both won 2 of the 4 legs, and it'll be interesting to see what the odds are for the U.S. Open. We'll have to see if I can check that on the fly. But again, another decent showing for Jon Rahm. Not his best week, but certainly not his worst. I think he might be even a little surprised that he was sitting at T7. But I said this at the weather delay. There could be a chance that at the end of the day he could have been top 5. Came close, but good week again for Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler. Adam Scott, tough way to finish, 79. That's that's the second worst round of the day, 79. Sam Burns, third worst round of the day with 78. That's pressure. And unfortunately, we've seen that before with Adam Scott succumbing to pressure down the stretch. Open Championship, bogey finish. Ernie Els ends up winning 2012 Open Championship. So it happens. But that's it's like I said earlier, golf is the sport where you get because you deserve something. You have to go out and earn it. And unfortunately for Scott, he wasn't able to earn it. And when he was trying to press, just things didn't go his way. A lot of misses to the right and short. And is that the last time we see Adam Scott contend for a major? I certainly hope not, because I really I'd love to see him and Justin Rose each get a major, but that's tough. It's tough late in your career. I hate sounding like a broken record saying the same thing, but you have to win these championships when you have the opportunity to. And, for Scott, 71, 72 might have been enough today. Unfortunately, just wasn't his day. All right, let's go over those odds for the Open Championship. Did pull them up, courtesy of DraftKings. Scheffler's the favorite at plus 450. Rory McIlroy at plus 650 is second. Xander Schauffele, he is third at plus 1,000. Bryson DeChambeau at plus 1,200, and Jon Rahm at plus 1,400. Yeah, so those are your favorites. A little bit surprised at Xander Schauffele being at plus 1,000, but Tyrrell Hatton at plus 2,000. I really like that number as well. Let's see. Anything else before we close up shop? I think that's going to do it for our 2025 125th U.S. Open recap. Congratulations to JJ Spaun, giving us one of the all-time performances on the back nine in a major championship, certainly at the U.S. Open, and a couple of shots that will be remembered forever. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you follow us, EliSportsNetwork.com. Bookmark the website, all kinds of content there. At Your ESN on X, Eli Sports Network on Facebook, Eli Sportsnet on Instagram. You already know where the YouTube page is if you are watching. All right. Well, that does it. Congratulations to JJ Spaun, first time major champion. And he wins at 1 under, which, by the way, I will audit myself. Scottie Scheffler was my pick this week, so didn't get that right, but we'll sign off on a happy note. In the preview show, I said I changed it from 1 over. I had it at 1 over originally, which almost ended up winning it. I changed it to 1 under, went with my gut, and it ended up being 1 under was the champion. So that's 2 this year. That is 2 times. I had the Masters, remember? I called a playoff in April and at 11 under. And now I've got 1 under in the U.S. Open. So if you want more predictions like that, stay tuned for the Open Championship. We'll be doing the same thing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with streams. Who knows? We might add in some weather delay streams as well, like we did today. But hey, maybe I'll actually pick the winner in next time for the Open Championship. But I do like that run I'm on with picking the score. Should be a little bit harder, though, for Royal Portrush. But anyway, JJ Spaun is your U.S. Open champion, the newest member of the fraternity of U.S. Open champions, as he wins the 125th U.S. Open from Oakmont. Thanks again for watching all week long and participating in any way. And like I said, we'll be doing it for the Open Championship. Stay tuned on our website. Lots of golf coverage to come. Have a great and safe month. We hope to see you next time in July. If we don't see you in July, we will see you down the road. Have a good one.